Welcome to Chicago Water Week.
Hundreds of speakers.
Dozens of events.
Chicago Water Week, anchored by Current.
Welcome to Chicago Water Week's signature event, celebrating Current's 5-year anniversary. I'm Venkat Atluri, senior partner from McKinsey. I'm also chairman of the board for Current. Water is so critical for our daily living. It's not only critical for our daily living, it's also critical for driving key aspects of our broader economy. We here in Chicago and broadly in the Midwest are incredibly blessed with some great water resources, from technology to natural resources and to other aspects of water. We are grateful for City of Chicago's support for Current. Here is Chicago's Mayor, Laurie Lightfoot, to say a few words about Current.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mayor Laurie Lightfoot, and I'm delighted to be here championing Current's second Chicago Water Week. Water is one of the most invaluable resources when it comes to protecting our health and well-being, our environment, and even our economy. In Chicago, we are lucky to have Current, our very own water innovation hub, as a catalyst for better, cleaner water here in our region. Current exists to grow our inclusive blue economy, accelerate innovation, and solve our pressing water challenges. Throughout this week, you've been joined by Chicago Department of Water Management and Metropolitan Water Reclamation District leaders, as well as community leaders and policy advocates, all of whom work together to bring new ideas and solutions to our water challenges so that our future water is equitable, inclusive, and secure. Each of us gathered through this week will have a responsibility to find ways to manage, clean, recycle, and use less water in our daily lives to maintain this precious resource. I celebrate our efforts in doing just that. And I look forward to working together to build a strong community of water leaders here in Chicago. Before I close, I want to wish a happy 5th anniversary to Current and a very happy Chicago Water Week to everyone. Thank you all so much, and please continue to be safe.
Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. Now I'd like to introduce MWRD President of Board of Commissioners, Kerry Steele.
Thank you. As stated, I'm Kerry Steele, and it's a pleasure to join you all for this very special occasion, the 2nd annual Chicago Water Week. At the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, we love to connect and work with professionals who care about water in Chicago, like you. We're proud to be a founding partner of Current and are thrilled with what their team has done over the past 5 years. In addition to events such as Chicago Water Week, Current has led novel projects like H2 Now Chicago, an innovative new tool for advancing real-time water quality monitoring in the Chicago River. Aside from speaking at today's event, my colleagues, Vice President Barbara McGowan, Finance Chair Marcelino Garcia, Commissioners Cameron Davis, Kimberly Dubuclet, Josina Morita, Deborah Shore, Ada Corral Sepulveda, and Mariana Spiropoulos, and I, will be coordinating and attending different events throughout the week to further our knowledge on different water problems and solutions, as well as share our expertise when necessary. We know the importance of collaborating with different experts and community members as we continue to fulfill our mission to protect the health and safety of the residents of Cook County. I'm sure we'll be inspired by all the innovative ideas of the cross-sector water leadership in the Chicago region on display at this year's Chicago Water Week. Thank you, Current, for serving as a hub and catalyst for the work we all have to do together to secure a safer, healthier, more productive, and inclusive water future. I'm grateful to be here supporting this new Chicago tradition with all of you. Thank you, and happy Water Week, everyone.
Thank you, President Steele. It's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Elaine Harman, Executive Director of Current. Elaine has been our fearless leader that persevered in driving Current to new heights. Despite several challenges, especially in the recent past, we couldn't be more proud of what she has been able to achieve with Current and what she's going to achieve. Elaine will be moderating the next segment. Over to you, Elaine.
Thanks so much, Venkat. I'm so grateful to your support as a founding board member of Current, but also as our current chair. It's so great to have your leadership and stewardship, and I know that your partnership as we think about how to take Current forward to the next 5 years. So grateful for you. And I'm so grateful for everyone who's tuning in today to join us to celebrate Current's 5th anniversary. It's a real hallmark that we've made it to this point, and we couldn't have done it without the support of several partners I'd like to call out right now, starting with our utility partners. Current exists to be an innovation partner to the government leaders who are helping to keep our drinking water flowing and our storm and wastewater treated every single day. We would not be here without the leadership and support of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago and the City of Chicago's Department of Water Management. MWRD, DWM leaders, we work with you and your staff every day on so many projects, from things like H2 Now Chicago to bring real-time water quality monitoring to the City of Chicago. I also want to call out World Business Chicago. World Business Chicago was the incubator of Current and really the origin story of so many of the ideas and the rationale for why we needed a water innovation hub in Chicago really started with conversations around WBC's tables. So WBC, grateful for all of your leadership to drive inclusive growth in Chicago and our region, and to work with you going forward on fueling inclusive entrepreneurship, technology growth, and building a clean tech economy that's going to power this region forward. Really grateful for your leadership and grateful to continue to be working with you. I'd also like to thank our university and national lab partners. Current exists to bring the best minds together across all of the different disciplines that power water innovation in our region. And that means working with the University of Illinois at Chicago, the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, the University of Chicago, Northwestern University, and Argonne National Laboratories. Those 5 research anchors support Current and help us bring collaborative research into the real world. And that is a really important part of our mission. They work with us every day to help vet the technologies that we are bringing into the market, to help advance the cutting edge of research around water technology. And we really couldn't do the work that we do without all the powerful minds that exist within those institutions, and so many more universities and colleges around our region. We're really grateful for that core support and looking forward to building on those core higher education and national lab relationships as we drive Current forward another 5 years. I'd also like to thank each and every member of Current's board of directors. These tireless individuals come to us from across the civic, public, private, utility, corporate sector every single quarter to help us set our strategy, deepen our impact, and ensure that we are meeting our mission, helping to grow an inclusive blue economy, drive innovation on water, and solve the most persistent water challenges here in our region. We could not do our work without these individuals. I'm so grateful to you personally, but also professionally for the vision that you bring to Current and the work that you'll do to help us drive impact in our next 5 years. Current also has a deep and impressive roster of strategic and technical advisors. These are individuals who come to us to help advise on specific projects, everything from figuring out how to address the nutrient contamination issue in the Illinois and Mississippi watersheds to the problem of achieving real-time water quality monitoring in the Chicago River. These are individuals that help us think through not only how we can advance the cutting edge of water technology, but how we can think through other challenging innovation problems, the process innovation, the innovation around leadership. They are truly some of our closest collaborators, and I'm really grateful to them for their leadership.
We have 2 awards to recognize leaders who invested their time and treasure over the past 5 years to help Current become what it is today. I'm delighted to present Current's Founders Award to Steve Close, Current's founding board chair. Steve is a partner with True North Venture Partners, which invests in and builds businesses that redefine, transform, and lead in the water, energy, and chemicals and waste sectors. Steve holds a PhD in chemistry and an extensive experience leading significant industrial R&D efforts. He's engaged with leading innovation centers globally. He has served on the Current's board since its founding. More than that, Steve has been a great friend and a colleague and a mentor in my current role as a board chair. And without Steve, we wouldn't have been where we are with Current, with our preeminence, with our leadership on really the key aspects of how we're making a difference in the economy. Steve, with all your help, dedication, and passion, this is a small token of gratitude to present this award to you. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you very much, Venkat and Elaine and all of Current. You know, Current has been a labor of love for me, definitely a lot of love and a lot of labor. And when the city first asked me to get the board of directors going and start the organization on a path, I was kind of thinking, like, why Current? And it really made sense to me that Current, because it's founded on such a strong base with outstanding water accomplishments, world-class universities and companies and national laboratories that all like to collaborate, that really Current makes a lot of sense to be a place, an organization that can make a huge impact on these water challenges that we're facing. And the idea was not for Current to become another accelerator and clog this system with another one of those, but to leverage all those assets and strengths in a more sophisticated organization that could develop points of view and to collaborate and actually make water innovation happen and realize results. And it's really been rewarding to me to look back over these last 5 years and see what's happened. Not only have we built a phenomenal organization that seems to have like a center of gravity where everybody just wants to be part of it, but there's been a lot of concrete results, millions of dollars in funding, tremendous research collaborations with real results, successful piloting, all these startups with ideas, and they just can't get validated. And Current's been a great vehicle and a platform for them to be able to achieve that. And then H2 Now, the real-time water quality monitoring that has gotten such a buzz, and it seems like everybody around the world and wants to sort of get Current involved and try to replicate. So it's been very rewarding to see this organization start to blossom and develop. I think we've all got really big ambitions for the organization because the water challenges we face are really big. And so I'm elated to have been part of Current and to be part of the progress. And I'm really thrilled to be able to look forward to the future. And I'm thrilled for the leadership of Venkat and Elaine and the whole board of directors that's really leaned in to make this happen. And I'm thrilled. I'm honored for this award, honored to have been part of this. And thank you very much.
Well, a corporate partner that has been by Current's side for many of its first 5 years. We would like to honor Greeley and Hansen with Current's Founders Award. Accepting on behalf of Greeley and Hansen is Cynthia Clark, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. Congratulations, Cynthia, on behalf of Current and all the work, all the support you've given us over the years. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Kalk, the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President at Greeley & Hansen. As the only global water industry engineering firm headquartered in Chicago, we are so proud to accept the Founders Award during Chicago's Water Week. We are truly grateful for the recognition of the important work the Greeley & Hansen team does in the water sector, and in particular, right here in Chicago. At Greeley & Hansen, advancing innovative approaches and technologies is central to our mission of creating better urban environments in the communities we serve. Addressing the most complex challenges in water resources with innovative yet practical solutions is what we do every day. And I couldn't be more proud of our team of water industry experts here in Chicago and around the globe. Since 2016, we've been pleased to have been part of Current as a founding member, and I congratulate Current on your anniversary of 5 years of meaningful work advocating for the best water technologies and solutions to strengthen the blue economy. On behalf of our entire firm and our Chief Executive Officer, John Roback, we thank you again for honoring Greeley & Hansen with this Founders Award. Thank you so very much.
Thanks so much, Venkat, for this presentation of our Founders Awards. I'm so grateful to Steve for his leadership as our founding board chair, and so grateful to Greeley & Hansen for the corporate support that they've provided all along the way as one of Current's founders. So grateful to these founders for the legacy that they've left in the first 5 years, and hope that we can do a great job building on it in the years to come.
ESG, environment, social, and governance, refers to a set of business practices and principles that companies subscribe to in order to minimize their business risk and make positive impact on their staff, their customers, the environment, and the world. Today, we recognize two leaders, Conagra Brands and Ingredion, who've already made significant steps towards protecting and conserving water. They've both been recognized by the Carbon Disclosure Project's 2020 disclosure ratings, and they are leaders in the state of Illinois. Both of these companies scored in the A range, two of only 3 companies in our entire state to do so. We're proud to have both Conagra Brands and Ingredion here with us today to accept the Water Leadership Award at Chicago Water Week 2021. As we hear from these two leaders, please join us in celebrating their leadership in the sector and leadership of our inclusive blue economy. First, I'd love to introduce Elaine Harman, who's the Director of Environmental Affairs at Ingredion Incorporated, and she's going to share a little bit more about Ingredion's water-related ESG strategy. Elaine?
Thank you so much, Elena. We are so pleased to accept this Water Leadership Award at the Chicago Water Week 2021. And I'm thrilled to have our teams recognized for all their efforts as water stewards. We are a water-intensive industry, and water is the main raw material for us, similar to the corn, tapioca, and other plant-based materials that we use to manufacture our products. Our largest and oldest manufacturing facility, Argo, located in Bedford Park, Illinois, has been a leader in helping us achieve our water reduction goals. Since 2010, the Argo plant has reduced water use by 2.8 million gallons. And globally, we've reduced water use by approximately 15 million gallons. Ingredion has always been conscientious of water use, as the procurement and treatment of water, as well as the treatment and discharge of wastewater, are significant operating costs. However, it wasn't until we were challenged by an NGO that we began to focus on water stewardship as a sustainability driver. They encouraged us to begin publicly reporting under CDP. And while the CDP report can be a painful exercise to complete, it has made us better. And it's inspired us to set targets, integrate sustainability into our business initiatives, and look for innovation to reduce and recycle water in our manufacturing facilities. We've set some very aggressive targets for water reduction in our 2030 sustainability goal. And while we're hyper-focused on plants that operate in areas where water stresses currently exist, we expect all of our plants to reduce water use. We've seen time and time again that when we set a target and challenge our teams, they not only deliver, but they generally exceed our expectations. While technical innovations are always needed and will pave the road to the blue economy, we also need changes to policies and regulations that encourage recycling water in the food industry. A colleague of mine once said that wastewater treatment suffers from bad marketing. Instead of wastewater treatment plants, what if we were to call them clean water production facilities? That might help with the stigma around using recycled wastewater in food products. We need that expertise along with the technological solutions to ensure the high quality and safety of our products can be sustained using recycled water. This is our challenge, and we look forward to working with the leaders in this area to help us achieve our goals and positively impact the communities in which we operate. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Elaine, and thank you to Ingredion for your leadership. We're very fortunate to have you here as a presence in Illinois, leading the way on ESG and water. And now it's my pleasure to pass it over to another water and ESG leader, Tracy Canfar, who's the Senior Director of Environmental Management at Conagra Brands. She'll be accepting the Water Leadership Award on behalf of Conagra Brands. So Tracy.
Thank you, Elena. Appreciate it. And it's certainly my pleasure to be here with you today. Hi, my name is Tracy Canfar. I'm the Senior Director of Environment at Conagra Brands. We are excited to be accepting this Water Leadership Award at the Chicago Water Week 2021. It really is an honor to be on the receiving end of an award like this one. One of the things that I want to talk about is how we assess our water risk. So we assess our sourcing water risk for our priority ingredients and materials annually using the WRI mapping tool. With respect to our manufacturing facilities, we are also always analyzing them for both water risk and water availability. And as it's already been mentioned, Conagra Brands has responded to the CDP's water module since its inception. And as also mentioned, we received the Leadership A- for the implementation of best practices we have with respect to water. At Conagra Brands, we value sustainability and innovation because we are living in a changing world, and we are continually concerned how our operations are impacting the environment, which includes water availability, impact, and quality. We believe as an organization that we have the responsibility to do the right things and do things right. And we consistently encourage that with our employees to take ownership of the facilities or the offices that they work in for identifying sustainability operations and improvements that they are seeing. Water is an essential input throughout our entire value chain. And at Conagra, we are committed to making the planet better by actively addressing our water risk. We will continue to engage and empower our employees to innovate and find sustainable production solutions to manage water resources across our entire network. And one of the other things that we do to encourage employee engagement and ownership is we have an annual program called the Sustainable Development Awards, which highly encourages our operations side of the business, as well as each and every one of our manufacturing facilities, to look at the projects or the initiatives that have been implemented the prior calendar year. So that could be a capital investment, but it could also just be an initiative that an employee brought to a manager or a leader, and we've implemented it. And I think that sends a very strong sense of how important this is, not only at a corporate level for our associates, but all throughout our entire network.
Well, thank you, Tracy. We really appreciate your leadership and the leadership of Conagra Brands. Again, very fortunate to have you here leading the way in Illinois, and look forward to working with you and with Ingredion as we work forward to build a broader leadership table around ESG here in our state. As you know, we're here celebrating Current's 5th anniversary, and I'd love to look to the future. So in another 5 years, we are hoping to have dozens, if not hundreds, more companies who are recognized for their water stewardship practices in the way that you both have been today. So what advice or inspiration do you have for your peers as we seek to build this bigger table of water ESG leaders right here in Illinois?
So there are a couple of things that I would recommend that companies look at when they're looking at water stewardship. One of them, Tracy actually talked about in her discussion, is that risk assessment. How do you assess risk related to water scarcity? That's incredibly important. And if you look at that and what that means to your businesses and your impacts on the communities where you operate, that will take you a long way to helping you develop that program and that means to take sustainability to the next level.
Yes, and I think Elaine summarized that spot on. It really is staying ahead of the risks that you have, because as I mentioned, we are living in a changing world. And if we are not staying on top and adapting to these risks that are identified, our companies are going to struggle to be successful. So I think the biggest thing that I would call out is it needs to be a entire corporate-led initiative, that it's not only employees or only leaders. It needs to be engaged and embraced by every single employee, because that is really how you're going to get traction, and that is how a company long term is going to be set up for success.
Great. So you've both spoken to some of the bottom line benefits of ESG practices in your business. I'm wondering if you could speak to how they're impacting your consumer and the communities where you're operating. How do you think about the value of ESG and water stewardship work with respect to your customers and communities? Elaine, you want to tee it up?
Yeah, so I mean, our customers, our investors, and our employees are demanding this of us. It's important to them that we are water stewards and we're using our resources wisely. And that is driving us to do better and to continue our sustainability efforts.
Great. And Tracy, how about for Conagra Brands?
So I'm following Elaine a lot, because I would echo again what she said, right? Because it's not right to say that it's necessarily fully coming from our investors, but it is important, right? Because we need investments in our companies. But I also think not only from an employee perspective, but also the communities. We take a lot of pride in the communities, and we try to be good corporate citizens. So Elaine touched on this earlier. So number one, it's the water risk to the business. But number two, when you look at water holistically, you have the whole other component of wastewater to that. And those regulations are getting more and more stringent. So it's just a bigger picture, good initiative for companies to stay on top of for multiple reasons.
What are some of the sources that you look to for inspiration as you seek to bring in new ESG practices and continue to lift the bar higher within your own companies?
So obviously, again, we keep hitting on the same. So obviously CDP is big, right? That gets you positive publicity if you're doing a good job around it, but it also could give a company negative if you're not actually making these initiatives a priority at your company. So I think to continue to look, as we have the customers, I know personally, I get a lot of requests from customers really wanting to know, where are we sourcing our materials? What are we doing from a business risk where we're manufacturing? So they are actually demanding a lot more transparency than maybe we've been seeing in the past.
And I agree with that. We are also looking, upstream to some of our agricultural suppliers. That's hugely important to us, and making sure that we're helping them meet water stewardship goals. The other thing, we look to our customers and partnering with them on huge initiatives. They're a huge source of projects, initiatives, and just the ways that we can work with them to achieve their goals and achieve our goals.
Elaine, Tracy, thank you both so much for being here with us to celebrate Chicago Water Week. We celebrate your water stewardship and the leadership that both Ingredion and Conagra Brands are providing right here in Illinois. We're grateful to have you here. We look forward to working with you to continue to raise the bar on water and ESG here in our region. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for accepting the Water Leadership Award. We're so grateful for you.
Elena, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk a little bit. We're so excited to continue our journey with you and with Current, and to help make a big difference on water stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. It's been my honor and pleasure to be part of this experience, and certainly appreciate all the work that you are doing around this initiative, because it really is an important initiative going forward. And I would love to see more companies just like you guys would.
I can't think of a better way to close out Current's 5th anniversary celebration than with a teeny tiny party here on Zoom with 2 of our nation's leading lights from water utilities. I'm so delighted to welcome Kathy Bernardino Bailey, the Executive Director of Greater Cincinnati Waterworks, and Mami Hara, the General Manager of Seattle Public Utilities. You'll be able to see their full bio links in the chat, but for now, I want to get right into conversation with these 2 leading women in water. Kathy, Mami, thanks so much for joining me today. I want to kick it off with an opening question to both of you. So we are here because Current is celebrating our 5th anniversary, as you know. And when we think about where water innovation and sort of water leadership in our region has progressed over those 5 years, there's some really important wins, but we're also at this place where we're looking ahead another 5 years. And really thinking a lot about what Chicago needs to do to take its place as a one water leader nationally and even globally. So would love to ask you both, what should our region's leadership be thinking about now as we look to the future? What are some of the things that we should be, laying the groundwork for at this really important moment for water leadership nationally?
That's a great question. If I can start off, through collaborating on one water approaches, the water leaders in this region have been and can continue to have vast impact. Water is such a powerful source of opportunity and environmental healing and community healing even. It can actually help pull us out of the shared compounding crises that face our nation and also the very specific challenges of this region. All of us face incredible challenges that include the global pandemic, longstanding racial inequities, affordability, mounting regulation, accelerant pollution, an aging workforce, infrastructure deficits, and of course the accelerant, right, climate change, and the list goes on. But additionally, as all of you know much better than I do, the specific challenges related to this region include climate-driven flooding at a very large scale, algal blooms, invasive species in your waterways, lead pipes, and extreme weather, among others. So for those in the audience who aren't really deeply familiar with one water approaches, they seek to manage water in a holistic way that can start to address all of these issues together. And they employ and enhance the interconnectedness and opportunities of systems and uses and people, right? It's not fluffy stuff. Maybe it sounds that way a little bit, but in practice, One Water's inherent goal of achieving maximum beneficial uses of water includes some very practical outcomes, such as reducing costs over the long term and increasing affordability, building community wealth, and ensuring equitable access to safe water services. I know Kathy has a lot to talk about in that area, so I'm going to take a little pause and maybe jump in with some more thoughts.
Great. Yeah, Kathy, what can we learn from Cincinnati about One Water leadership?
A few things I think I would like to share. I think number one about One Water leadership, then I think you really have to be ready to address the specific challenges in the region that you serve. So an example certainly of that would be lead service line replacement, right? We do know Chicago has a number of lead service lines. That's certainly, something that we're seeing in the Midwest. It's the same here in Cincinnati. We have a number of lines left to replace. And so that's something that's local, but I think a One Water leader would be aware of those types of challenges in that local area and then would work to address those with a sense of urgency. And that sense of urgency is really what sets the tone to change the trust and gain more trust as we move forward, to let, really the community know that, yeah, you mean business about what you're doing, and we're going to tackle these things quickly. And so that's important for a One Water leader moving forward. I think also, that One Water leader will need to address affordability. We know moving forward, we're going to have plenty of infrastructure changes that we need to make. We're seeing more flooding. And so There are going to be changes and more rate increases likely for water, sewer, stormwater. And so it's not affordable now, and we know more rates are coming. And so what will we do? How will we make that more affordable? And that one water leader will need to figure that out. That might come in the form of more customer assistance programs. It might come in the form of a new rate structure, but something has to give there to address affordability. I think a third thing that one water leader would do would probably be to establish more relationships in the community. That has been huge for Cincinnati. Never would I have thought that I would be meeting with foundations and nonprofits and people working cooperatively in neighborhoods and health departments and schools and all of those things. But those partnerships are very, very important. And I think they're going to play a key role as we move forward as more One Water leaders, because it's going to take that village of those partnerships to get our work done moving forward. And then lastly, I think I would say that One Water leader would be looking at the workforce. If nothing else, the pandemic has told us that people are willing to get up and move around in their careers and their jobs. And so our time is now to excite people to come play in water with us, to come do this work on a regular basis. And I think that will be important for a One Water leader to recognize that and be very creative in how they attract and retain people to come work in our industry.
Those are all spot on. And, in addition to Kathy's comments about a workforce opportunity and development, also, her comments about making sure that people are the folks who are in community and especially historically excluded from influencing and benefiting from infrastructure investment can be included in, in the work is absolutely spot on. In addition, I also see in Chicago or the Chicago region, a lot of water leaders looking at how aging infrastructure can provide an opportunity to invest in more blue-green and nature-based infrastructure, and also looking at right-sizing gray infrastructure to be more climate resilient. And that is, a big component of One Water leadership. I also see folks in your region addressing pollution and the environmental legacy of unequal impact on communities, particularly communities of color. And seeing that work provides an opportunity to further activate community voices and to work together to reduce pollution. And and as Kathy said, to that includes the impacts of lead service lines. And then there's also an important push that I've observed about a dialogue about whether and how soon water management can become carbon neutral in your region. Essential part of One Water leadership. All of these routes are important individually, but bringing them together to see how they can be integrated for maximum effectiveness and lowest cost is the work that's ahead of all of us nationally and regionally. And I'm just going to mention just very briefly, a little bit of the work that we do in terms of trying to integrate all of those elements of work. We at our utility, we've been working a long time to develop a system of policies, market signals, investments, employment approaches, and other investments that reinforce and build on each other's impact. So, for example, with green stormwater infrastructure, we have green stormwater infrastructure management programs, regulations, targets, incentives for private development on all types of property, education across all sectors to build community capacity, innovation pilots, and technology partnerships. And through doing all of these different various things, we are capitalizing on our ability to create markets in order to advance our environmental obligations and equity aspirations. And that is work that I think a lot of One Water leaders are taking on around the country, and Kathy is no exception to that.
Great. Well, I appreciate both of you providing this not only the framing, but this sort of inspiring list of actions that we can take to sort of drive forward on One Water priorities here. Obviously, so this last point about markets and creating incentives that lever other dollars and bring other dollars beyond public dollars to the table, I think is really important. And thinking about how we design for system change that really brings all of the players and all of the investors into the market is going to be obviously critical if we're going to start to tackle, it's a long list, right? Everything from workforce development to, the massive challenge of decarbonization and moving to, more renewable energy sources in our water and wastewater treatment. Big list, some expensive priorities for sure. So bringing all dollars to the mix is going to be really important. But we are in this moment right now where we have, sort of unparalleled, unprecedented potential for new federal investments and funding to flow into water systems in the coming years. This is a really exciting moment, we can all agree. And here in Chicago, I think we're of course thinking about how we can bring it all home to Chicago and Illinois, but for all localities, how should the public sector, how should utilities and public sector and private sector leaders alike be positioning, our hometowns to attract those federal dollars? How can we, use them to kind of both accelerate this One Water leadership, but make ourselves a great center of gravity for federal dollars to land?
That's another fantastic question that a lot of municipalities are contending with right now. How do we position ourselves? And it's true, the federal government is taking some very important early steps right now with some potentially very powerful investments and ambitious goals in water infrastructure resilience. And we're not being forgotten this time. And that is, the kinds of work that they are trying to promote and support are very much in line with One Water approaches and goals, such as the Justice 40 initiative coming out of the White House. I just had a really interesting call with a colleague and we were reflecting on all of this, and she was making the case for shovel-worthy investments over shovel-ready investments. And she was noting that communities with strong groundwork in inclusionary opportunity and wealth building for low-income community members, and those who understand that it's not, that all investment isn't created equal in terms of the opportunities that it creates, and also those that prioritize sustainable infrastructure and access for everyone. And as Kathy mentioned, those with strong community partnerships and relationships. And not lastly, those with strong delivery capability across all sectors, not just in the, public utility, across all sectors and among its community members, are well positioned. I should probably also add that those with strong public-private market bases or instruments for collaborative delivery can also be considered more shovel-worthy than others. So, when you look at that kind of positioning for the kinds of holistic projects and the network of relationships that a region has to do to position itself for really worthy investment, you can look at, several key opportunities, that really build a business case, right? That you need to build a workforce and marketplace that does attract further investment, right? And that you need to equitably enrich your community so that it can sustain investments far into the future. You don't want to have massive, income disparity, because that can create all kinds of problems, at the water management level. To keep water costs affordable, right, as possible, that is you have to be able to, have a community that can afford what you provide, and ensuring equitable access for, water for all sectors and people over the long term, which means that you have create a strong basis for sustaining your community. There are a lot of communities at risk, right? Because they are so water stressed, it's unsure about, there's not a lot of surety about how to invest in them. Partnerships can be at every level of utility work. And we are finding enormous benefit by bringing community members in as design team people, in our integrated system planning and in our prioritization of climate adaptation investments, and also, in the creation of multi-benefit public-private partnerships. And the list goes on, and we are finding no end of benefit to that kind of work.
I think so. This framing that you've put out there about shovel worthy versus shovel ready, I think is a really interesting way of kind of locating or centering some of the top features and priorities that our local leadership needs to have. Kathy, I know you've been really successful at sort of framing Cincinnati's story in that way. Like, can you share a bit about how you've helped to drive federal investment to deal with some of the major infrastructure challenges in your region?
I think maybe I'll give you an example of what we did with our lead service line replacement program to just really give you a solid example of what we did. And I think it was two things. First, we said we needed to do the right thing even when people aren't looking. We just need to do the right thing, right? And then the second thing was be a storyteller. And so that first piece is all about the fact that when I started at the utility in 1992, the lead and copper rule was going into effect, and we were talking about removing the remaining lead service lines back then, right? So fast forward almost 30 years, or even fast forward to the point of Flint, and for me, it was like, you got to be kidding me that we are still talking about this crap, right? And so enough was enough, right? It's like, we need to solve this. And so we put together this team, and we basically said, as far as we know, there isn't a model across the country, but we're going to see what we can do to fix this for our community. And so that was the part about doing the right thing and really sticking to that, and not, in my opinion, waiting for the federal government to tell me when to do it. The time was now for us to do it for our community. And we felt strongly that our community expected that. And so that was the first thing. But then the second thing was that we wanted to be our own storyteller. And to me, that is very, very important, because we didn't want, the media to pick up the little bits and pieces and slice it the way they wanted to. No, we wanted to really outline how we told our story of what we were doing. And so as I look back on it, it was pretty cool, I guess, but it was about 25 of us, and we constantly looked to see what was happening in the news. It's like, oh, they're asking this city, where are the lead lines? And oh, they're asking that city where the school is and what the schools are doing for testing. And oh, what do we know about this? What do we know about that? And so we tried to really keep our ear to the ground to find out what was happening and what the media was asking for. And we did that in a way, we were about 2 weeks ahead of them. So we heard that they were starting to ask, where's the lead lines? So we released a map where you could see where the lead lines were. We heard that they were starting to ask about whether or not schools knew if they had lead pipes. So we started partnering with the schools and looking at our GIS data on what we knew where the lead lines were. And we started releasing that information. We thought it would be important that customers might want to get their water tested. So we put out on social media free testing, and so we really started to build our story. And as we built that story, once we got approval with council to go forward with the cost sharing program to remove our lines, then we shared that story. We shared that story locally. We shared that with the state. We talked about it at conferences. We went on the conference circuit. We did all of that, telling our story, And so what happened later was key officials at the US EPA heard about our program. The US EPA administrator wanted to come see a program that was working, so they came to visit us. The state heard about what we were doing. They had some grant money, for removing lead service lines at child care facilities. And so the fact that we were telling our own story and putting our own narrative out there, put the word out there what we were doing. So when buckets of money became available, they had heard of an established program that they were willing to put their money behind. And so that really helped us. So that storytelling really, really is key. And I am always a proponent of, don't let anybody ever tell your story. You know, it's why I tell my own story on social media. It's like nobody else is going to tell my story. You tell your own story. And I think that is key for water utilities, water, sewer, stormwater, whomever needs to own that and tell our own stories. And that's not something we're in the habit of doing. And so that we need to change that. Hire a storyteller if you need to. We have communications members here that do that very well for us, but that is going to be key for one water leader moving forward. We need to own and tell our own story.
So your point about communication is so important to where we want to sort of wrap the story up, which is the power of partnerships to drive one water leadership forward, right? So the power of an effective communicator to translate the value of your investments, you know, to a variety of different stakeholders, to taxpayers, to the community, right? To public sector and private sector investors alike. That's certainly one of the key capacities that, you know, our one water leaders and our public sector utility leaders will need if they're going to be the anchors of these future investments. But so I'd love to ask you both in closing, you know, what are some of the other features of successful partnership structures as we think about, you know, how to really drive one water leadership forward here in Chicago and in Illinois, but also around the country?
I'd like to start just with a little bit of framing that a whole bunch of water leaders have worked on. So maybe I can just start off with just saying that, you know, all of us at utilities are really realizing that the problems that we face aren't solely engineered or engineering problems, and that we can't just rely on delivering, you know, hard solutions, that the solutions to the problems that we face are interrelated and they center on people and communities, and that we need to be increasingly community centered in everything that we do. And so, you know, One Water as a movement to, you know, deliver sustainable and integrated solutions inherently involves partnerships. And, you know, that is not always the comfortable place to be, but, you know, we're starting to really realize that so many of us are water leaders and water managers. And, you know, and the interrelationships that need to be fostered are among community and business leaders and industries, farmers, environmental advocates, conservationists, policymakers, academics, you know, all sectors. And, you know, so the U.S. Water Alliance developed a framework for One Water that seeks to ask utilities and the public sector to step up as anchor institutions within their communities and to aim for 6 integrated goals, right? And the first is to advance reliable and resilient water utilities, 2, to advance thriving cities, and 3, competitive business and industry, 4, sustainable agriculture systems, 5, social and economic inclusion, and lastly, healthy waterways. And if you really think about them, you know, water is a cornerstone for each of these goals. And, you know, all of them are interdependent. So, you know, this means that we, you know, as the kind of designated water leaders, you know, as utilities, you know, begs for a high degree of connectivity among each other and to technologists and all the other types of folks that I previously mentioned. And really, as much as we invest in infrastructure, to also invest in relationships and trust building and coordination of responsibilities and even our activities. And, you know, you can see it in some of the work that is really, I think, flourishing more and more, you know, in, for example, the creation and management of markets to efficiently and effectively deliver needed outcomes, such as stormwater management, or influencing regional ecosystems, the economic ecosystems via blue-green jobs training and workforce development, really taking it upon ourselves to partner with others. And this requires a lot of partnerships to contribute to livability and economic vitality through investments that are really different and at the surface, like green stormwater infrastructure rather than under the ground, and prioritizing access to clean water services and to wastewater services in environmental justice communities. That is a key part of it. So in our work leading with racial equity. And I know that Kathy is a leader in that work. So, I'm going to pass it to her.
I totally agree with what Mommy is sharing. Anchor institutions are where we are and where we need to keep going in the future. And certainly a One Water leader is an anchor institution. And I want to explain it this way because it's kind of how I think about it and how I try to move through it. Years ago here at this utility, there was a mindset that, we will do what we want in the policies and procedures. And if the customers can't deal with it, that's their problem. If they can't afford it, that's their problem. If they don't understand the bill, that is their problem. And so I said, that's not going to work for me. I don't roll like that. Here's what we need to consider. We need to consider that if we are this significant entity in the community, water is life, so we are significant. So if we are significant, then we are the community. We are the community. And so if that is the case, if the community has a problem, that is our problem. And at the time, we were talking about the solution for our lead service line replacement program. And so I said, this is our problem. The fact that the customers cannot afford to pay for their portion of the lead service line, that is still our problem because we are the community. And so when we started to change that mindset in employees, that's when the solutions to some of our problems started to flow. Because we didn't want to sit back and have a problem. We did not want it to be on our watch that we knew about this problem and we still had it. And so we saw those solutions come forward. And I think moving forward, that One Water leader, that anchor institution will do that every day. That will be how they roll. And so examples of how we've tried to put that in place here, there's some fun things about it, right? So of course, if there's the water balloon toss at the neighborhood games, then we're the official sponsor of the water balloon toss. That makes sense, right? If we're having marathons, we have the Flying Pig Marathon here. Then we, of course, are going to sponsor the misting stations. We have parades throughout the spring and summer. And so we have a float that our employees built, and we participate in those parades. And we go to the opening day parade, we go to the LGBTQ parade, 4th of July parade, Harvest Home, and we encourage our employees to participate and be on that float in those parades. Those are the fun things that we do because that connects us to the community, that lets our customers see us in a fun, normal way, right? But then at the same time, we make sure if we are that anchor institution, then we need to make sure that our workforce represents the community that we serve. So we have put in more diversity and inclusion practices to bring more diversity into our workforce. We have looked at our capital improvement projects to make sure that we're not just doing them in affluent neighborhoods, because those affluent neighborhoods are the ones that are screaming the loudest down at city administration. So we make sure that we're doing those across the board. We do things like that. We make sure that as we think about customer affordability programs, that we're also thinking about various levels of those programs so that they're not just helping a certain group, but we need to go out and learn about the neighborhoods that we serve so that we can make sure that we adapt those programs in that way. And then I think lastly, I go back to those partnerships. We couldn't do all of this and we won't be the best anchor institution that we can be if we're not seeking and maintaining partnerships to move forward. Never in my wildest dreams would I believe that I would be going into schools and meeting with superintendents because I need them to partner with me, not only to get the word out about the lead service line replacement program, but to also go to their vocational schools so we can possibly set up programs to train our plumbers and welders and those types of positions that we might have in the future. Never did I think that I would be partnering with churches to share information, or partnering with some people who we call them people working cooperatively. But those are people that we can partner with that can help people change out their fixtures in their homes and fix up their homes. And so we hear from our customers, hey, I've got this ongoing leak, I need some help. We partner and send them to those types of places. But never did I think we would be doing that type of work. But I think now that is where we should be and where we need to continue into the future. And I think all of that collectively is where water utilities will be able to not only live, but thrive as anchor institutions as we move forward.
I love this anchor institution framing. We're certainly fortunate here in Chicago, we as Current, to be supported by two big anchor institution utilities, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago and the City of Chicago's Department of Water Management, both of whom I think are, making great strides in some of the areas we've talked about today, from, green infrastructure, supporting pilots to set up stormwater credit trading, working in schools with our Space to Grow program. There's so many different ways, and the lead service line replacement pilot, of course, supported by a really important state legislation to get all the lead service lines out of Illinois. So we're making great strides. You have both certainly really lifted the bar for all of us and set out a vision for where our region could go in partnership. And, of course, as a partnership-driven organization, we at Current are really inspired by the examples that you're both setting in Cincinnati, in Seattle, and for all of us around the country. So thank you both so much for sharing these lessons with us, and just look forward to working with you and all of your partners to improve our water future. This 5th anniversary celebration for Current falls right in the middle of Chicago Water Week. If you haven't had a chance, please check out the Chicago Water Week calendar and sign up for some of the great events that our partners have planned for the rest of the week. There's so many great things to choose from and lots of different ways to go deeper to learn about what's going on in Chicago's water leadership landscape. Please join me in thanking our Chicago Water Week sponsors, Ingredion and Xylem. Thank you so much for your leadership and helping to make Chicago Water Week a reality. Join us at WEFTech coming right up next week, where we're going to be in person at the McCormick Place. So happy to have WEFTech back again. We will be in several places on the WEFTech panel, so take a look and register, and we hope we will see you around the conference exhibition floor.
Thanks so much for joining us for Chicago Water Week. We look forward to working with you to build Chicago's stronger water future.